Hello, ladies and gents. This is Sir Michael at Read On with Sir Michael Rivera. And today I'm going to be reviewing, well, not today, I'm going to be reviewing seven books, but right now, new and collected poems of, I don't know how to pronounce that first name, but the last name is Miłosz. One of my Polish friends told me how to pronounce the last name. He didn't tell me how to pronounce the first name, but um, I'm not even gonna try. This is actually not the first book of poetry that I have read by Miłosz. I read another of his books called A Treatise on Poetry. That was a few years ago, and that was really just one book. This is a compilation of many of his books over a span of 30 years, 1931 to 2001. The book is actually it's about 750 pages or so. And you know, generally when I read poetry, it's honestly not my favorite topic, but I do like reading poetry from time to time. It's more for the musicality of the language. I really don't try to analyze the poem very much because what I've kind of realized about poetry is that oftentimes the poet himself doesn't know what he's writing about. Poetry is a very involuntary thing. This is my theory anyway. Oftentimes the poet is he is the vessel, if you will, by which a message is conveyed. The muses speak through him. So that's why I really, sometimes I read poems backwards. I actually ended up reading a lot of these poems backwards, and they seem just as readable as if you would read them regularly. So what I really like about Miłosz though is that Miłosz lived about 90 years. He died like at 93. Won the Nobel Prize too, and nearly 100 years. And really, his lifetime encompassed most of the 20th century. So he got to see a lot of the horrors of the 20th century. He got to see the first two world wars. He got to see the nuclear age, the Cold War afterwards. He really lived through a lot. So definitely he had a lot to say. And every now and then, there's a line of poetry here that just completely leaves you stupefied. And, I'm going to share a few of these lines just to kind of give you a sense of what Miłosz is all about. He says here, for example, he finishes one of his poems with, "Who can tell what purpose is served by destinies, and whether to have lived on earth means little or much?" And he writes in another poem, "What do you want? I wanted to exist, but what? That which is no more." Then here's even another poem. "It is revealed now that their Europe since the beginning has been a deception, for its faith and its foundation is nothingness. And nothingness, as the prophets keep saying, brings forth only nothingness, and they will be led once again like cattle to slaughter." You get a sense, though, even if you're not trying to analyze the poem, even if you're just reading it like I was reading it just for the language, you do get a overwhelming sense of disillusionment with what he saw. He probably, I wouldn't say he died a broken man, but I think that he did die with a very pessimistic sense of the world and of society. But really that's what modernism is all about. I mean, if you read The Wasteland, T.S. Eliot, there's a very steep sense of disillusionment in that poem. So that's probably the theme of the 20th century, especially following the two world wars. Um, what I did like though is that there was a little bit of eroticism in this book as well. Definitely some erotic poems, a little reminiscent of Octavio Paz. of poems, for example, like Sunstone. And I really like that about Miłosz because it definitely showed that as a poet he has versatility. And there are also poems about nature, about the simple things. So it wasn't just this big overarching poem about the 20th century. It was really more about the simpler things of life as well, which is why I did like this book and I like Miłosz. So keep staying tuned with me, Sir Michael Rivera, wordpress.com. Have a good day.